Gents, I just want to pause the episode for a moment to let you know about the Strong Men of Value Academy. You will have heard me refer to it a number of times, and I want to bring more attention to it. So this isn't just a program, it's a life-changing environment and community of men who are focused on personal and professional growth. We're looking at areas of relationships, wealth, and health, things to help you thrive and maximize your life. Imagine having bi-monthly one-on-one coaching sessions with myself, weekly group coaching calls, and an incredible brotherhood of high achievers by your side. Now, we're diving into resilience, leadership, and holistic growth to not just succeed in your career, but to thrive in your health and your relationships. Your journey to greatness, it starts here. So join the movement and you can apply for the Strong Men of Value Academy. You can head to themanthatcanproject.com to find out more. Welcome to the Man That Can Project podcast. I'm your host, Lachlan Stuart. Today, I've got an incredible guest joining us from Tamworth. Now, if you're not familiar with Tamworth, Tamworth is an incredible town where they hold or host the Country Music Awards here in Australia. I was down there as my wife was singing this year. And when I went down there, one of our Academy members, Joey, recommended we drop in at this CrossFit box, which is where I went in. And it was an insane facility. Like, I'm talking huge, had everything. I was literally like a kid walking into a candy store when I went in there. I was like, this is exactly where I want to be training. Anyway, I met the owner, Jake, who is also someone that I've watched on the CrossFit floor before. He's an incredible athlete, a very, very strong athlete, and someone who has a strong head on his shoulder. So very excited to talk to Jake about how he's been off alcohol hasn't had an alcoholic drink for 10 years, the resilience mindset, his goals moving forward, the sacrifices that it has taken to be an elite level athlete, and so much more. Now, if you are tuning in for the first time, make sure whether you're watching this on YouTube, listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening, hit the like button, follow, and leave a review. By you taking the time to do that, it's showing other people out there that there's great content on here, and it might help them push them over the fence to tune in on these episodes in this podcast. So thank you for doing that. And remember, for those who have been thinking about joining our Strong Men of Value Academy, we're doing a price increase in January. So if you want to get in at the current price, join. You've heard about all the value. If you are tuning in for the first time, you'll hear it on more of the episodes where I have members on. I talk about the value that's in it, or you can just head over to themanthatcanproject.com/strong men of value to find out more about the incredible academy and what's available to there. So that's enough from me. Let's dive into the episode with Jake. The Man That Can Project podcast, a podcast empowering career-driven men to live more fulfilling lives. We are here to challenge your beliefs, redefine success, and talk about the important stuff in a relatable way. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. My name's Lachlan Stuart. Let's get into it. Jakey, awesome to have you on, brother.
Hey, man. Yeah, real pleasure.
It's going to be fun. We met first when I was down in Tamworth for the Country Music Festival, and Joey was like, you got to check this gym out. You'll absolutely froth on it. And when I walked into your facility, it's literally like, for anyone who loves fitness and loves training, especially like functional fitness, you have this facility that is like a playground. It's like the Mecca.
Yeah, we refer to it like Narnia, because you come through this like real weird little driveway, and if you've ever been, like, obviously a lot of these people probably haven't, but like you drive through and you go over all these speed bumps, you come out the back of this really like old building, and then you walk through this one little door into like 1,000 square meter like functional fitness playground. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to describe it, because when I was walking through, I was like, the map says it here. I don't see the gym. And then, yeah, you go on this drive and it's just like, where the hell is it? And then you literally walk in, you're like, oh my goodness, I'm glad I opened this wardrobe. This is insane.
Yeah, it's cool.
Mate, you played footy at a young age. I remember when we had a bit of a yarn, you thought we might have played footy together.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, your name just rang a bell. Obviously, I don't think we ended up. I didn't think we.
Nah, it's probably because my face is a bit messed up from broken noses and crap. But for you growing up, like, what position did you play?
I played on the flank, so I played rugby league and rugby union. Sort of
Yep.
come into my own in rugby union though. Probably played like I was better at union than league.
What'd you
Um,
prefer?
I preferred rugby league, to be
Yeah, yeah.
honest. Yeah, yeah. I just ended up being better at it, and I was not great as a kid, and as I got into men's, is when I sort of started playing better footy.
Yep.
And so yeah, I played on the flank and then played in the centres at the back end. I was a bit too short for the flank for higher level.
Yep. Mate, similar to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were built like an absolute brick shithouse. So if you were in the centres, were you 12? Or
13 actually. I played
oh, really?
majority. Yeah,
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 right.
yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah, and
picture.
then I sort of swapped between them, but majority of my higher level footy was definitely at 13.
Yep.
Um, yeah, yeah,
I thought for sure you would have been just one of those ball carrying mongrels that just run through like a Marnonu sort of.
yeah. I definitely watched him and try and replicate him, but
He's an absolute beast. You
yeah.
also now like have moved out of. You're not playing footy anymore, hey?
No, not anymore.
Yeah, but you're thriving in the CrossFit space. I remember because Riley Smith and also Riley Martin both
Yep.
train out of the same gym as I do, and I was heavy into CrossFit a few years ago. And I remember seeing you on the open stage and the regional stage and stuff, mate. You were throwing like 170, I think it was 175 overhead, which is insane, and that's in kilos for all the Americans and Imperial system listeners. That's a lot of weight.
Yeah, weightlifting, love it. And just from like the rugby, like you come do strength and conditioning through rugby, and you're probably going to touch some power cleans and deadlifts and stuff like that at some point. And I
Yep.
always just preferred that style of lifting to anything else. So I found the Olympic lifts with CrossFit, it just sort of matched in really well that it ended up being a strength for me.
Yep. What made you want to move into CrossFit then after rugby and weightlifting?
I don't know. I was dabbling in weightlifting at the same time as I started to sort of compete in CrossFit. So I was doing those together for quite a while. But I think it was just I needed a bit of a change, like if I wanted to do anything further with rugby, it was like go back overseas or go to Sydney or something like that.
Yep.
And I really wanted to try and see athletic potential. So yeah, I just decided to take a year off, and I was like, I'll just try this CrossFit thing and might do some weightlifting, and
Yep.
haven't looked back now. Yeah.
Was it hard giving the footy up?
Yeah, man, I love footy. I love playing it. I actually went back like that. I tore my ACL. I went back playing a couple of years ago, and I
Yep.
tore my ACL. Yeah, and yeah, I love it, man. I love like being around the boys and everything it brings. Like the training atmosphere and winning
Yep.
as a team is a really good feeling.
It is. There is something about like being part of a team and like having a common goal. And I'm sure in Tamworth it gets bloody cold during the season as well. Where I was playing in Toowoomba, and then I played in Europe as well, and going to training sessions in the freezing cold, I always hated it. But then everyone was going through the same suffering together in order to progress to the finals and hopefully win. It was good fun.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like that feeling of getting to the end of the season and going well, and like winning a grand final, or getting promoted or whatever it might have been at the time. Like, there's no better feeling that you've been with these boys since like January, and then September comes, and it's a long time that you're hanging out with
Mate,
them.
it's literally 10 months a year you're with a certain group of people, and you get to see, well, they get to see you at your best, and they also get to see you probably at your worst, because we do peak throughout seasons. People who maybe don't play sports just expect athletes to be peaking all year round. It's like you have a good game and they expect that to continue for the whole season. It's like, in an ideal world, that would be amazing, but we have, so many other things going on in our life, and I have a family, and stress and injuries and niggles and all of that sort of stuff impacts our performance, and people don't really understand that, but your teammates get to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's nothing quite like being part of that team, that's for sure.
And what's your goal at the moment, like with CrossFit? And we were talking the other day, you've got some pretty exciting stuff you're focusing on.
Yeah, man. Look, but the goal all along's been to make the games. Like, I think that's everyone that competes at the level that I compete at now. That's everyone wants to be there. So, and if you didn't want to be there, I don't know why you'd be putting as much time into it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely the games. That's like the big goal, and then other than that, for me, it's at this point, it's like just figuring out what you're capable of. You know, it's crazy. I've been doing it for this long and still improving in aspects of it. It's just your body's amazing, man. Like crazy.
What do you feel like your biggest strength as an athlete is?
Oh, just power output, I think. Like if you look at any workout that's like high power output or fast or sprinty, I'm usually pretty good at those ones. And I think that's like my they're usually my best finishers, yeah.
Do you feel, is there anything where you, from a mindset point of view, where you sort of thrive as well?
Yeah, I just enjoy the tough stuff, I think. Like I do, and I think it just comes down to, you know, being good at that sort of workout as well. Like if it's high power output, it's going to hurt a lot. Whether it's like echo or assault bike or like, you know, sprints on a rower or something, when you're good at that stuff, it can be like a bit shit too, because you're like, oh, this one's going to hurt so much. But I really thrive on that, you know, like I've got that, I like to think that I've got the mindset of just do it, just make it hard. Like the sooner it's as hard as it can be, it won't be any harder than that, you know?
Yeah, for sure. What about the workouts where they may not be a strength? Because it's always easy to attack something you know you're good at. Like there's that certain level of confidence because you know it's your bloody wheelhouse. But when you're attacking something that you're like, this is legitimately not going to work for me at all, how do you sort of prep yourself for that, and how do you then attack a workout like that?
Yeah, look, I think they're the ones that I try and play it smarter with, because I know that I'm a little bit heavier than some of the boys and maybe some of those weaknesses are there and you're a bit slower. So I try to just focus on the little things through the workout, if that makes sense. So I'll try and really like pace it out. And then the mental side of it for me is like sticking to my plan regardless of whatever anyone else is doing. So if I see someone take off and it's like, it's okay, just ignore them. That's the mental part of it for me. It's not about pushing really hard on that one in particular. It's like I need to run my own race. And I think that's sometimes harder than anything else, like put the blinkers on.
It's definitely easier said than done as well, because when you're in, especially I think through experience, you learn to stick to your game plan more. But a lot of people won't even get into a workout because they've psyched themselves out prior due to their mindset or going, I'm not good at that. And I think that stems across all areas of life. And the reason why I love talking to athletes and training myself is challenging yourself physically or grinding out in a workout, especially one that you know is not your strengths. You get to learn so many things that are transferable into those other areas of your life.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's like that saying, comparison's the thief of joy. I try and use that like across the board of like, if it's in a workout, I know it's going to be bad. You've got to ignore everyone else. Like and then whatever the placing is, that's all right. I've got to back myself in the next events that I know will be good. And as long as I did my best, that's the only thing that's important. And I'll use that right across, like whether it's with training, you know, like I won't follow athletes that I know might post their scores regularly and things like that. So like, I don't even want to see it. I don't want to know what you got. I'll just, I'm going to focus on me right now, you know? And I'll do the same with business. We just stay in your lane, run your race.
What drives you to compete at the highest level?
Oh man, you know, like, I don't know. I enjoy it. It's the competitive nature in me. I just want to compete and I just enjoy it. And I'd hate to be, you know, 20 or 30 years older and think, you know, what my body would be capable of. Like, I feel like I was quite reckless or didn't focus a lot in my younger years that could have set me up for sort of greater success. And now I've got this thing that's in my palm, like CrossFit, that's literally as much as I work and as much time as I put into it, I'm going to reap the rewards of it. And I've got the lifestyle to do it. So I feel like opportunities that I may have lost or may have let pass me by from poor decisions when I was younger, I've got the opportunity now to you know, make amends nearly and serve myself in that fact. Like, you know, what I put into it is what I'll get out of it. So I just want to see what I'm capable of. That's where I'm at with it.
You were saying some poor decisions when you were younger. What were some of the poor decisions that maybe cost yourself some opportunities?
Oh man, I think it's a lot of guys that would listen to this would like, you know, be like, I did that. But you know, like just the little things. Like I remember going to Sydney for rugby in like Colts, and then you'd be on the piss on like Thursday and Friday night before you play on Saturday. It's like, how does that make sense? You've just relocated and now all of a sudden, like, you have an opportunity and then you're going and doing this stuff. You know what I mean? And I did the same thing like a few times, partying instead of training. Like, what? Doesn't make sense. And then you wonder why an opportunity doesn't come.
Yeah, I think at that age, we just think everything's going to work out. And we don't really get hangovers then, but the compound effect of, your body's obviously, when you're drinking alcohol, you're poisoning yourself ultimately, which means your recovery is not going to be good. Sleep's not as good. Your mind's not as sharp, and that impacts your performance. And I always think about, the people who are the elite at what they do, like whether it's Rafa Nadal or Federer or Messi or Ronaldo, or depending on whatever sports, or even I find it hard in rugby league because I know a lot of them drink booze because I play with a lot, but like how much more you could get out of yourself. And maybe if you don't have the talent or as much talent as someone else, that's one of those areas that you can really sort of make it up, because as an athlete, hard work beats talent 9 times out of 10. And part of that hard work is the sacrifices, is maybe not partying. And what would be some of the sacrifices that you've made since sort of being aware of those challenges?
Yeah. Well, firstly, I think just on what you said, like, it may not even be from a performance standpoint, but maybe it's like you're not going to be the player that players want to play with if you went out on the Friday night before you went on Saturday. It's like, well, you're not giving your best. You know what I mean? Or
that's a good point. Really good point.
Yeah, and you forget about the other people that might see you around. Like you go out on the booze on a Thursday night after training, and like that, the head coach just happens to drive past when you're out the front with 6 schooners in your guts. Like
yeah.
Like at some point, I don't know how I didn't think about, like, it's not about necessarily my actions, but it's my actions and how they are reflecting on other parts. Maybe I was still playing okay footy, but it's like, if it was between me and another guy and the coaches are sitting there talking, they're not going to take the guy who hit the piss last night. Like, they're going to, the guy who they know did the right thing. And yeah, I think in terms of sacrifice, like what your actual question was, it's the mates, man. Like I feel like I've lost nearly every old friend I nearly ever had, like in sacrificing not drinking and not going to parties. And because unfortunately for guys, like, that's really how we catch up. Like, go to the pub, have a beer. That's what it is.
Yep.
And then as soon as you're not into that, it's like your options to see all your old mates are nearly out the window then.
So you're not drinking now, hey?
Man, I haven't drunk since 2013, 2012.
Was that a hard decision? Like, how did you come to make that decision?
So I was in Scotland. I had a really good time. Like, I drank quite a bit over there, and I came back and I had, I had a bender. Like, it would have been a week on the piss, seeing all my old mates and stuff. And then at the end of it, I had this, light bulb moment. Like, I think I caught myself saying, actually, I probably could have done this over there if I wasn't on the piss, and it was like this, hang on a minute, like, that's such a victim mentality. And I haven't earned the right to say that. I don't, because that just discredits the work that anyone that ever made it did.
Yep.
And then you want to sit there when you're like 6 skewies deep saying that you could have, would have, should have. So I sort of heard myself say it, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to give myself like a month without drinking. Let's see how fit I can get, and I'll see what sort of footy I play or whatever. And then 1 month turned to 2 months, and I just sort of got a little bit addicted to, feeling good and not having that fogginess that surrounds the booze, like the hangovers and the regret of whatever you might have done or said. And yeah, I just realized that that's not who I am.
It's pretty cool. Like, so a lot of people get off the booze once they hit like a rock bottom point. Yours was more like a really great realization that you're taking away from the effort that other people put in. And it is like a victim mindset. Like, people could do it in their relationship. They may say, I didn't mean that, I was just drunk. And it's like, well, you're the one who poured the fucking alcohol down your gullet. So take responsibility for your actions.
Yeah, it's ownership, hey? That's the biggest thing. And then even now, like, I know that some of my decisions maybe rub people the wrong way or rub mates the wrong way or whatever it might be, but I just have to own it now. It's like, well, look, I'm sorry, I'm not going to go to the Bucks party because I don't drink and I can't be around it. I don't want to be around it.
Yep.
And if that pisses people off, then, well, like, what do you do?
That for me is like the character that you show to be able to do that, because so many people say, I'm not going to drink, and then they'll, the weekend, everyone laughs about it, like, especially in our Australian culture. And look, if it's what you choose to do, awesome. But if you're someone who keeps saying you're going to change something, then it's like, oh, the old rubber arm. It's like, stop talking about that stuff and take responsibility for the situations that you're putting in. Like, we all have a rubber arm in some way, but as you said, it's like, well, I'm not going to go to the Bucks party, right? I'm not going to hang around people who think, act, or behave like that. I'm very similar to you, Jake, with that. People go, how have you managed to not be a dickhead for so many years? I'm like, well, I don't put myself in the situation. If I am in the situation, I probably would be a dickhead. Like,
yep. Or it's like people like, oh, I smoke when I drink. All right, well, don't drink. Like, I'm not a genius, but if that's what it takes, like, don't complain to me about one thing and do the other.
Yeah. And let's talk about sacrifices a bit, because I was going to ask you more around athletic performance and what you've achieved. And to some people, cutting up booze is a sacrifice, and I used to view it as such. But for me, it's also, I don't think it's a sacrifice anymore. I think the real sacrifice is not being who I want to be, or being able to maximize who I am and my performance and my mindset and my mood, because I'm sacrificing to want to fit in with people that maybe don't have similar values. It's like, oh, I'll drink just because I want to have someone to hang out with, or I want to feel like I belong with someone, rather than going, look, I may have to be by myself for a while. I may rub people up the wrong way. I may lose a few friends, but ultimately, like, you're the perfect living example, Jake. It's like, you'll find yourself 10 years down the track at the cream of the crop of what you do, with great people in your life.
Yeah, and that's it. And I think that maybe the sacrifice isn't the booze. Like, people think, oh, I like doing that. It's not. Like, you're attaching that to other things around it. Like, guys who like love going to the pub, they don't go to the pub because of the beer. They're going to the pub because the boys are around, and then they're all drinking the beers because they're at the pub. Like,
yep.
That's just what it is, and that's the mentality of it. And like, that's the biggest thing I'd say I would sacrifice, is that those friendships of, you're just not bonding with them anymore. So you say no to a few things, and then you're not getting invited anymore.
Yep.
But it would be, I could look back on it like, oh, I've lost some mates. Or I could look back and be like, oh, I didn't live up to what I wanted to do. Like, I chose these friendships over what I truly wanted to try and achieve in my life, the example I want to set for my kids, the legacy I want to try and build for them, to then pursue whatever they want. It just doesn't match up for me. So yeah, it's like, right, I'm gonna cut this, because the real sacrifice is, as you said, not living up to your potential.
Do you feel like you have something that makes, like, special, like a secret sauce, or something that makes you, puts you in a position or a mindset to be able to follow that through? Because there will be so many blokes listening to this who, everything you just said, then I want to be better for a better role model, or a better partner, or the best version of myself. We all start with that intent. But as I said, the next day it's like, I forgot about it and I'm back on the booze, or I'm saying things to my partner that I don't want to say, or I'm not coming home to say goodnight to my children. Like, is there a secret sauce, or what's helped you actually implement that, and for the better part of 10 years as well?
Yeah, I don't know. I think initially, like, I can remember before I actually stopped, I can remember for a year or two before that being like, oh, I'm going to stop drinking, blah, blah, and that same, storyline, the narrative that everyone tells themselves. And then I think eventually it got to a point where I was like, well, some people, what's the best way to say it? Some people get motivated by, like, getting talked up and being praised and all this sort of stuff. Whereas for me, like, I have to tell myself exactly how it is. Like, stop being a coward. Like, you're literally not chasing what you want because you're trying to please these people. Like, it doesn't add up. So for me, it's just that hard truth. And I don't think there's a secret sauce to it. It's just about ownership and honesty of, like, be honest with yourself. Can you look yourself in the mirror and be happy with it or not? Because if you're not happy with it, then why are you doing it?
Yep.
So I think it's not about a secret sauce. It's about honesty and ownership. And then everyone else can go and get fucked. Like, if it doesn't serve you, then, like, if they're not going to be happy for you to chase what you want to do, then, like, why? What's the point?
Was there a period of time when you came to that realization, right? Because you then talk about people can go and get fucked, and I had that same approach. I moved towns. But then there was a period of time, it felt like roughly 2 years is what my recollection was, where I was often by myself. I felt quite lonely and isolated. Did you experience that as well?
Yeah, man. And definitely still now, for sure. And it's not a matter of like everyone else can just go, go to hell. That's not the case at all. It's just like if someone were to, give me grief about it or whatever because of A, B, or C, then it's like, well, I still want to be your mate and I want to be there for you or whatever, but I'm just not going to do these things. So if that's the only avenue for me to fit in or whatever, then like, well, there's not much more I can do with it. So I'm just, and it's that, what do they say? Like, you have to be happy alone before you'll be happy at all. Like, so I just think being comfortable and just understanding it. And I've got great people around me as well. Like, sometimes you might lose a couple to find a couple as well.
I think that's the reality of it. Like, you only have a certain amount of time, and for you, you're a family man, business owner, athlete, you can't be, we do need to prioritize our time. I think it's extremely important. And as a business owner, you'll probably have people's shifts set and all of that sort of stuff because you need to know who's doing what. And if we don't take that approach in our own life, then people can suck our time. And we don't want to get to 75 years of age and look back and go, man, there were so many things that I didn't do, so many people that I loved that I didn't spend time with just because we didn't treat our life or the time that we have with intention.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's one of those things though, like any of those mates or whatever that ever needed me, I would 100% be there for, but it's just I can't waste my time on that one thing or whatever. Yep. And it's not to say that hanging out with them is a waste of time. It's just the things that may circle around it. Like how long is that 6 hours on the piss? What's that gonna lead to in like 4 or 5 weeks or like as an athlete, you prep for competition. So you might be building, then you've got the time off, but that could not fit in with other people's time off either. And unfortunately, maybe they just don't understand that at some stages, but it's just, unfortunately, it's just the sacrifices that you make if you're chasing it. Same as business. Like for my business, like I try and give most of my staff that Christmas period off. That's probably when I'll do the majority of the work in the actual gym, through that time so they can have it off. Because the other time I'm out chasing my goals and they're in here working,
Yep.
So, and 90% of the population's got Chrissy off except
you're working.
Except me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely sacrifice, perspective, and having a clear, I guess, drive towards a purpose. Like you've found your purpose through what you're wanting to do and the goal that you've created for yourself and the plan that you're working.
That's right. Yeah.
So I was going to say, how have you, you've got a family, how have you got the buy and even your business, right? Like, because there must be an element of them seeing you train nonstop going, fuck, does this dude ever work? I don't know whether you experience that, but I know that happens for me. And it's like, well, I put myself out there. I took an initial risk to create a life that, would be set up for how I want to live it. I never had the dreams and ambitions to work 9 to 5. That wasn't who I was as a person. I want to live and I want income to do that. And I want to have a business that I love. And we all play roles to make that succeed. But for people seeing you obviously training, how frequently do you train?
So we're 5 days a week with like 2 days sort of off, like 2 on, 1 off, 3 on, 1 off. And anywhere from like 4 to 6 hours a day. And that would be just training. Then you've got your recovery and saunas and massage and,
That's full time, man, like full time.
Yeah, it's a full-time job. Yeah, 100%. But unfortunately, people may not recognize it as that. Like, all you do is train, can't you do this? But yeah, man, I think one thing that's really helped me with mine is that it's just that open and honesty, and we've built the team around it now. And it's just from the get-go of the people that we put in places in my business, in the gym, that they completely understand the trajectory that I'm trying to be on, what my goals are and where they fit within that. And then we're a team unit, and realistically, like I probably employ 2 more people than I need to. Like if a business minded person sat down and looked at our stuff, they'd be like, you don't need those two people. Like,
Yep.
you know, but I'm willing for those two people to be there so I can do what I want to do and still have the family time. I don't want to be just working all the time. Like,
Yep.
so at the moment it's either I'm chasing the athletic dream or I'm hanging out with my kids and my family. You know, I'll oversee what's happening in the business and I'll make sure that we're not, you know, going south. But besides that, it's just that's the order of my priorities. It's like family, as long as they're benefiting from what I'm doing, and then athletically, I'm chasing it, and then it's the business.
Yeah, so you'd say that was going to be one of my questions for you later on, like what are your priorities? Because some people who listen, there's a lot of business owners that listen to this and they'd be like, why is he prioritizing training over his work? But it's all connected. I think something that a lot of people don't understand or really take seriously is just how much our lives are connected, from the quality of your health to the stress that you have at home to the stress that you may have in your business, the fun that you're having. It's like it all leans on itself. And for you as an individual, Jake, from what I'm understanding, like you're so passionate and driven and ambitious with your career that if that wasn't on the table, the business probably wouldn't be doing as well. You wouldn't be as great a dad as you are, because you'd have this built up resentment as to like, I'm not really pursuing my potential here.
Yeah, I think so, man. And it's you know, yeah, exactly what you said. It's just it's all connected. Like if you're not happy in one of those, like say most people have the three things, right? It's either their hobby that they have and then their family, their business.
Yep.
And if they're not happy in one of those things, you know, like it's just going to crumble. So I try not to prioritize the money. I try not to think about it. I just, because as good as I am as a dad and as happy as my home life is, that's as good as I'm going to be able to train. And then as good as my athletic performance is, it tends to reflect on my actual business as well. Like it all serves each other.
Yeah.
So that's the mindset I try and have with it.
And I love that. And I think one thing for that is like to all the blokes out there, because I'm very aware, like we're very similar, and I think how we live our lives. I'm not a professional athlete, but I still train a bucket load and I just am very active and have built my business and life around that. But I'm also very conscious that when I do have children, I don't want to be the guy who, you know, my peers respect me. I've got all this money, but if my young kids are running around, they go, "Daddy, pick me up," and I bend over and I fucking do my back, or I'm not strong enough to, play tag with them or whatever it is. It's like, for me, that's not a good quality of life, no matter how much money I have. And, or have the kids come home and see me fighting with my missus. It's like, I don't want that either. Like I want to work on these relationships, work on my health and don't get me wrong, have money, but continually work on these things, because if you neglect them, they fall apart. And we are role models to people. And one thing that keeps standing out for me about you is your character and your principles as a man and as an individual, and just how certain you are in how you want to show up. Like people are drawn to people like you for guidance, for leadership, for support, because everyone else is, not everyone, but majority of people in their life are probably flaky. Right. So when there's a man who like you who does do things differently, there's still a lot that we can respect about yourself because of your character. It's like, this dude just fucking knows what he wants, and you'll get what you expect. He's not going to pretend to be someone he's not.
Yeah. It's one of those things that definitely ruffles feathers. Like, you'll either have people that'll love it about you or that'll be not necessarily like it. But yeah, I think to what you said, it's like creating standards. And that's one thing that I did like years ago. It's like, right, these are the standards of what I should hold myself to. And then they're a minimum. It's like, this is a minimum standard of what I want to hold and value as like what a man should do and what a man should be. And if I can hold up to that as the minimum, then everything else is going to be okay. Like as long as I do these as the bare minimum, like what's the minimum effective dose of all this stuff that makes me a great father, a great athlete, a great business owner. If I'm hitting those checkpoints, like the score will take care of itself after that.
100%. Do you ever have moments of doubt, like where you feel like what you're doing may not get you to where you want to get to?
All the time. Yeah, all the time. But I just, again, I just try and reflect back onto that, that trust that just, no, I have this, there's something inside me. I doubt it now and then. There's something inside me that says, all right, I think I'm on the right path. And, as I look around, am I making my house payments? Yep. Is my business running? Yep. Are my kids happy? Yep. Are we eating? Yep. All right. I'm doing something. That's the bare minimum right there, like it's checking boxes. So anything after that's a blessing.
Do you feel you inherited this mindset, or has it been something that you've developed for yourself?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. That's a really good question. I never really thought about it too much. I mean, both my parents are like hard workers,
Yep.
So I watched hard work, growing up my whole life, not the like businessy type people or anything like that. They're just hard workers,
Yep.
So yeah, I think just watching that, seeing that sort of grow up and definitely went through a period where I was not into hard work or any of this stuff.
Yep.
I think just somewhere along the line, I just decided that if you want the best for yourself, you got to be the best you, right? Like,
yep.
You can't want all the cash and do none of the work, or you can't want all the fitness and do none of the fitness. Like, you got to, at some stage, you just got to hook in. It's just what it is, and it's one of those things, as cliche as it is, like for me, it's just, right, just be the hardest worker in the room. If you can be that, then that's okay. Like, you can't be angry if you gave it your best and it didn't work out. Well, at the end of the day, it's like, well, you know. But if you sat back and looked at it and you had an ounce of you that thought I could have done better, you'd be pissed.
There's nothing worse than literally going back to CrossFit, like them walking out of a workout knowing that you cheated yourself. Like,
yeah. Or watching like, we watch video reviews back of like submission scores and stuff like that, and you saw yourself rest, and it's like, oh, what a pussy! Like, why are you resting?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I agree.
I always used to have those strategies in a workout because I opposite of you, like, I have a good engine, but as soon as a barbell comes in, I'm toasting. So if I knew I had to put it down and I had rep counts of where I'd put it down, I'd be like, righto, 3, max 5 seconds, and I'm going to have my judge yelling at me like 5, 4. And if I can hear that, and there's moments where I blew over, I was like, you little pussy, come on, let's go. Like, you don't need to rest. It's just like your mind's like, one more breath.
Yeah, I got this thing where I try not to negotiate with myself. So as soon as it creeps in, it'll be like, nah, you can't do that now. Because if you're like, all right, I'm going to rest a second here so I can go faster over there, it just never happens. Like, once you're in the... It's funny, man, the head games, eh?
A lot of it comes down to just backing your decisions. Like, when you start to understand what you want and your strengths, and also the flip side of that is your weaknesses, you can develop a really good plan. And this goes for all areas of life. Once going back to what you said before, how some people go, I always smoke when I drink. Well, don't fucking drink. It's not rocket science, mate. Like, win. Here you go. And when you start admitting all that, you can create greater levels of success. But it's about, once you've set the goal, made the plan, like, backing those decisions and not changing from it, because if you've thought carefully enough, if you've been honest enough, and you've really developed where you're at, become clear on where you're at, it's like, okay, just do what I said I was going to do. That's all it is. All you need to focus on is doing what you said you were going to do.
Yeah. It's just that next job, eh? It's that next job mentality of like, well, I'm here now. I've just got to do this now. All right, I've done that. I'll just got to do that now.
Who are a few, whether people or even athletes, that you look up to or admire at the moment, if there are any?
Yeah, oh man, there's so many, eh? Like, so many. I find like inspiration in weirder people, though, I guess. Like, I look at some rappers and stuff that, like a Nipsey Hussle or like a J. Cole, things like that sort of came up and then were so like set in what they wanted to do, and they were so sure in the way they tried to deliver a message. You know, maybe they've got a checkered background or whatever, but the message they were trying to deliver is what inspires me. Things like, obviously, like, Kobe and, oh man, like, yeah, you could go on forever with like athletes like Michael Jordan.
Yep.
Like, you could, yeah, I think I just see all those people and, yeah, try and take little bits and pieces from who you might find like intriguing at the time.
Yep.
So, see, I wouldn't say I've got like one person that I just look at and think, wow. But I like all sports and like to find the individual athletes and yeah.
I think that's a good way to look at it, because people may respect an individual and then they may do one thing. Use Will Smith, for example.
Yeah.
Has that moment, once again, which obviously wasn't the right thing to do, but a lot of people, that's just tarnished his whole image. And it's like, think about fucking don't throw stones, because none of us are perfect. All of us have our moments. And if you flip that perspective, it's like, okay, well, we all have our flaws, but we all have things, attributes, characteristics that you can take away. And that's why when you build a community or a team of people around you that bring out the best in you, they don't have to have everything. It's like people expect their partners or their spouses to fucking tick all the boxes. It's like, that's a lot of pressure to put on one person as we all navigate through life. So it's like, okay, well, what do you gain from this person? What can you give to this person? Okay, well, what do you need to get? I hang around people who, my training friends are different to my business mentors and are different to the people that I, network with on the weekends or hang out with on the weekends. It's all different, but they all add value in different ways.
Yeah. And that's exactly, you just hit the nail on the head. That's why I see, that's how I get motivated from people. Like I don't have that necessarily that one person. I'm like, they're the GOAT, but it's like, all right, I can take this from that person and I can take that from that person over there. And I love how that person holds himself. And then you take these, these principles from all of them. And then you've got your, what you're trying to portray then.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah.
And a final couple of questions, but like for you, how would you love, or potentially how do you even feel at the moment your family would speak about you?
Oh, I don't know, man. That's a good question. I think my family, they'd say like, hopefully funny. Like I like to try and make my kids laugh all the time. And I think just hardworking. Like I think they see it. They know like dad's going to train.
Yeah.
My partner, like she sacrifices so much so I can do, like we talk about what I sacrifice, let alone what my actual family also sacrifices with me training so much or going away and competing and stuff. So, I think if you had to ask them, probably just, hard worker, loyal.
I like that. That's good, man. And in regards to, I know you'll hopefully one day have a training program out there that people can access from all around the world. You guys are based down in Tamworth. I'll be back down in, I think it's January. I'm come back down to throw a few sessions down with you, which would be good.
Very good.
10 days, put me through the paces again. But is there any way like people can follow along with your journey, obviously striving for the games and all of that sort of stuff? Is there a way people can work with you and reach out, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I'm pretty good on Instagram. Like _Jake Douglas _.
Yep.
I'm pretty active on there. So like if they send me a message, I usually write back to it. As for now, we don't really have any training programs yet. That's in the works for like hopefully early next year.
Yep.
We're going to do an app. But yeah, for now I'm just so laser focused on competing that I don't want any
distractions
from it. I got sort of my 3 things that I focus on, and outside of that, it's nothing else really.
Mate, it's going to be a fun season to watch. Then I'm pumped to know that you're going all in on it.
It's weird. It's you can kill one comp and then you'll get dusted in the next, but that's sort of why I like it as well. So
it's definitely one of those sports that, literally. I remember when I was training with Riley Smith, and he was killing it. And there was one workout where I nearly got him. Like when I say nearly got him, it probably was still a fair way away, but I was like, I felt like I nearly had him. Yeah, and then I was like, fuck yeah, I am going to kill it this season. And then I did a workout with him the next day, and he absolutely put me back in my place.
It's heartbreaking, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, mate, you just but it's fun because you get to learn to deal with, I guess, setbacks and failures, and you got to constantly be working on your ego and so many things like that.
Yeah, that's right. You got so many. Like, it's hard to have an ego in CrossFit, I think, because like you're one workout away from getting dusted by everyone.
Yeah. Except for Matt Fraser, that man was
Yeah, except for him.
unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah. Unless you're Matt or like Rich Froning, then like anyone else in there, they're one workout away from getting dusted.
Yeah, dusted, the two superhumans. Jake, thanks so much for coming on, mate. It's been great fun. I've learned. I don't know if you saw me taking notes, but I was taking a heap of notes while we were talking because I definitely resonate a lot with your mindset and how you're going about doing things.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
Thanks for tuning in to that conversation with Jake Douglas. Remember where you can follow him on Instagram. All of the links are going to be in the show notes there, so you can reach out to either of us. I'm going to leave you with this. Do something today to be better for tomorrow. Thank you for listening to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Lachlan Stuart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Man That Can Project on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time.